Nigeria's World Cup dream hangs by a thread, while the football world watches a bureaucratic standoff instead of celebrating athletic merit. Could politics now eclipse performance at the heart of African football? This matters because right now, the fate of Nigeria's participation in the 2026 FIFA World Cup isn't being decided on the pitch, but in correspondences between the Nigeria Football Federation and World Football's governing body, FIFA, a scenario with enormous implications for African football integrity and meritocracy. For fans and critics alike, this isn't just another administrative delay. It's a crisis that cuts deep into the soul of Nigeria's football culture. After suffering a heartbreaking penalty shootout loss to the Democratic Republic of Congo in the African playoff final, a match Nigeria dominated early but ultimately lost 4-3 on penalties following a 1-1 draw, the Super Eagles' World Cup journey slipped away on the field. But instead of accepting defeat like champions who fell short, the Nigeria Football Federation, NFF, launched an appeal claiming DR Congo used ineligible players, a gamble that now has Nigeria's continental fate suspended in limbo. The issue? The NFF argues that several Congolese players improperly switched national allegiance and failed to meet certain eligibility criteria, contending that Congolese law doesn't allow dual citizenship, and therefore those athletes shouldn't have been cleared to represent DR Congo. But that's where the whole argument tangles into a web of contradictions. FIFA's own statutes only require that players hold a passport for the country they represent, regardless of how that citizenship was obtained, meaning the NFF's entire appeal rests on conflating domestic nationality law with international sporting regulations. This isn't a simple technicality, it's a fundamental misreading of the rules. Talk about wanting to win any way possible. On November 16, 2025, at the African World Cup playoff final, the Super Eagles were expected to assert their continental authority. Nigeria, a football giant in Africa with a rich World Cup history, entered that match with expectations that millions of fans felt were well-deserved, and for a brief moment it looked like destiny was on Nigeria's side. Frank Onyeka put them ahead early. The crowd erupted, but DR Congo equalized before halftime, and the match went to penalties. In the cruelest twist of football fate, Nigeria saw 4 of its spot kicks miss or saved, while Congo's captain, Chancel Mbemba, coolly converted the decisive penalty. The result was crushing. Nigeria out, DR Congo advancing to the Intercontinental Playoffs, one step away from a maiden World Cup appearance since 1974. For many observers, that should have been the end of Nigeria's story, a painful but honest loss. But now, weeks later, we're seeing a very different battle unfold, one off the field, steeped in regulation and rife with political undertones. For Nigerian fans, the appeal feels like a second chance. And yes, hope is valuable, but there's a growing chorus within Nigeria and across Africa broadcasting a damning sentiment. If your team can't win on merit, you don't deserve a lifeline through loopholes. One popular fan thread right now bluntly captures this mood. We lost fair and square. We should focus on building a better team instead of leaning on technicalities. Others argue that if Nigeria takes DR Congo's place via paperwork, it would be a humiliating precedent, not just for Nigerian football, but for African football's credibility on the world stage. Those voices aren't fringe. They underscore a larger truth. Football is a sport first, politics second. And in Africa, where the sport already carries the heavy weight of national pride and continental identity, turning every setback into an administrative challenge undermines the very essence of competition. This isn't just a Nigerian problem, it echoes across the continent. What message does it send when a powerhouse side seeks to overturn defeat through appeals rather than accept the result and build better teams? Does that improve African representation on football's biggest stage, or does it encourage what some critics call off-field savviness over on-field excellence? That debate is still raging on social media, sports forums, and in the press. Critics of the NFF's approach make no effort to sugarcoat their frustration. Some say Nigeria should focus on player development, tactical discipline, and consistent international performance instead of relying on legal technicalities to secure World Cup qualification. A vocal segment of fans insists that Nigeria's national team underperformed earlier in the qualifying campaign. They stumbled from the start and never fully recovered, so any notion that Nigeria deserved automatic qualification is simply false. Others warn that if Nigeria successfully replaces DR Congo by administrative decree, it opens the floodgates to endless petitions from other federations worldwide, turning World Cup qualification into a bureaucratic chess match instead of a sporting contest. And on the flip side, DR Congo's camp has publicly described Nigeria's complaint as the act of bad losers, dismissing the appeal as a desperate bid to overturn a legitimate result. Let's be clear, DR Congo advanced fair and square under the rules as interpreted and applied at the time. They earned their spot and now face the next challenge in the intercontinental playoffs with their heads held high. A number of football analysts argue that Congo, far from being a fluke, deserved their chance. Their journey through African qualifying was not easy. They battled past tough opponents and showed resilience. If they progress further, it will not be because of technicalities, but grit and determination. For many pundits across the continent, Congo's success story is one of hope, a signal that African football is broader and richer than a handful of traditional giants. This isn't a team making up numbers, it's a squad ready to compete on the world stage. So for those calling Nigeria's case home, consider this: there's a fine line between justice and entitlement. Congo earned their chance, just as other underdog teams in history have, and that should be celebrated, not diminished. FIFA now holds the fate of not just Nigeria and DR Congo, but the credibility of World Cup qualification rules in its hands. The verdict, whenever it comes, will resonate worldwide because it will either reinforce confidence in the integrity of international football regulations or validate the notion that off-field tactics can overturn hard-fought results on the pitch. African football has long fought perceptions of mismanagement and bias. Now it faces a situation where its most passionate supporters are divided between calling for rule enforcement and preserving sporting merit. That's not a trivial argument, it's fundamental. Before we go further, if you value straight talk about sports and accountability, make sure to subscribe for honest analysis that cuts through the noise. If FIFA rules against DR Congo and in favor of Nigeria, the Super Eagles would be reinstated into the intercontinental playoffs scheduled in Mexico, but the backlash would be swift. Many will question whether Nigeria's presence at the World Cup was earned or engineered. If FIFA upholds Congo's win, then Nigeria must face the hard truth: you lost on merit. Now rebuild. Accept it. Learn from it, and channel that disappointment into long-term growth. Nigeria needs to move past quick fixes. Coaches, administrators, and players must recognize that fans want performance, not petitions. They want a team built to win, not one that hopes for controversies to rescue its World Cup dreams. And Africa? The continent deserves representation at the World Cup that reflects true competitiveness and integrity. No shortcuts. And finally, if you want more insight into how global football politics intersects with everyday fans' passions and the truth behind headlines, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Tell us in the comments, should Nigeria accept defeat and rebuild or press on with the appeal?